98.1 KZE. This is the Up and Running Morning Show. I am Rick, your host, and joining us via the telephone right now is Tisziji Muñoz. Good morning, Tisziji.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks, Rick.
Thank you. And now we go from, well, a master of songwriting to a master in general. It's a pleasure to be able to talk with you, Tisziji. You are a Parlor Session alumni. Just giving the listeners a little bit of a background about our musical appreciation for you. You came in and did a Parlor Session with John Medeski, and it was a transcendent affair. It was an incredible 1 hour of commercial-free live music that you and John presented over the airwaves to many people. And it was a spiritually moving event. Now, are most of your musical experiences that way?
I would say the basis for the music in general is a meditative or contemplative attitude. That means a certain kind of understanding that, we are deep to begin with. And so we're talking about being able to play from different levels. And I think in this case, more than knowledge, we have to play from the level of being. And once we're able to connect musical expression to the level of being one is being, I think we're talking about the potential of having different levels of music. And in this case, we're really talking about peace music, also creative music. That means selfless heart music, and certainly mind-transcending music in the case of when, let's say, we're playing in a situation where the whole band can then transcend in themselves and the situation at the same time and go maybe to deepest.
Now, you've been playing music for how long?
I see. Well, I've been playing drums since around, according to my mother's testimony, just before 2.
Wow.
I think that's normal for children who have the gene. I don't think that's unusual. So,
did you start on pots and pans, or were they actual drums?
Drums came at 3. Pots and pans were the most immediate thing that gave me some sense of a semblance of what drums are about. And in this case, we're talking circular objects. In the case of pans, that was about as close as I was going to get to a circular object that had a certain kind of sound, and it looked like some form of a drum.
Right, well, you get a
but
few
it had a
of them.
pot handle, but there was a pot handle on it. So my mother objected because they were actually pots, whereas in my mind I was treating them as if they were drums, and they were supposed to be drums. And then eventually I graduated from the kitchen to, let's say, metaphorically speaking, the music room, and started to play drums. In fact. And I got my first set of what would appear to be children's strap drums at 3 years old. I started banging on them, and the fever continued.
Do you still play the drums?
Very seldomly. In fact, I had a friend come over a couple of days ago that brought a udu. I think it's called a udu. I'm not sure exactly what country it's from, maybe in Nigeria. And it has a tabla effect. It's got a doo-doo, this kind of like talking effect. And it was made out of some kind of synthetic... but it sounded like a true Middle Eastern drum, and so I told him he has to get me one. So on occasion I will play them, but I can't play them to any degree of real satisfaction or pleasure, as in the case of my early use, because they damage my fingers. They flatten and beat up my fingers, so it makes it virtually impossible to play with any finesse on the frets.
So, speaking of which, you are a truly accomplished guitar player, and it's amazing to watch what you do, and of course to hear what you do, because it's truly something that it seems almost as if you're channeling where the music is going, the direction, where it's even coming from. It seems like it starts out at your chord and goes through the guitar, through your fingertips, and then goes to your brain, and then comes back to your fingers.
Yeah, we have to keep in mind, I think, not to get away from the topic, but, we're breathing cosmic energy. We're breathing it. Without the presence of the universe, without the cosmic energy fact, we really wouldn't be able to survive down here. Now, I know without proper protection, we can't be in space, so to speak, But we're here, and there's a lot of the universe that's still, let's say, part of our biosphere and let's say, reality. And so when we're talking about sound, and if we can just for a moment consider, scriptural references to in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God, and so on and so forth. I think the mystics of all times and all schools are getting back to the fact that if they've meditated, if they've had any kind of spiritual experience, then it's really about the sound, and the sound then implies silence because it's a mysterious sound. It's the presence of something that is let's say the life pulse itself. And sometimes it shows up as light, but most of the time it shows up as sound.
True.
And this is where we are coming from as human beings. We have to inhale, we have to exhale in order to do two things. Continue to be a part of the universe relative to the etheric plane, and thus breathing. But then I take it to another place, or I see it from a different dimension. This dimension then is the sound dimension. So to play music from that place, whether that music is also filtered by our education, knowledge, and culturing is one thing. To play music from that place relative to silence itself is something entirely different. And so this is where my early life experience, not so much with the knowledge of music per se, but with the experience of sound, is very, very crucial to what I'm doing today.
Now that is absolutely interesting to me. Now tell me and the listeners about the marking of the 10th anniversary of Divine Radiance and the 25th anniversary of visiting this planet, both recorded with Paul Schaefer.
Yes, that is correct. The 25th anniversary really is very special in that it marks the beginning of Anami music per se, and more properly, Anami music has its own entity, its own business, like its own lordship, its own authority in terms of the music field. And so Anami music means music that is virtually indescribable. It's like without description. And that's what the word Anami means, and that's why it's useful to call what I do as Anami music, because of the fact that it's really hard to call it one thing or another. We can say generally it's what it is. And in that particular recording back in when it was 1989 or so, there was an anthology of compositions. And so that was a summit point relative to what I was doing in New York City. And so we Paul and I got together, and he was on most of the pieces. Pharaoh Saunders is on the recording. Bob Moses is on the recording. John Hicks is on the recording. We have quite a number of very, very great players that came to play with us. Adam Nussbaum is on the recording. So that's the beginning of Anami music in terms of a viable, very, very powerful, pure music experience. And when we go back to Divine Radiance is going back 10 years ago. That was something which has catastrophic implications to me, because I arranged to get the band together. That included Robbie Coltrane, Pharaoh Saunders, Rashid Ali, Don Pate, Paul Schaefer, and myself. And Paul has always been a very, very integral part of whatever I've done of importance in the past. And so it's good to have Paul, to speak about Paul. It's good to have Paul's musical friendship and his visionary contribution to what it is, because he sees what I see, he feels what I feel, and he hears what I hear. And that has been the case with us since the beginning. So the summit point in 2001, when this was recorded, for, let's say, what we were doing as Anami music, so we went from the 25th anniversary to the 10th year, going back to the 10th year, right? That's maybe 15 years later. We had this summit, like bringing these monsters, these great jazz musicians together, because I had friendships with each and every one of them. And it was time to do something very, very powerful. The coincidence is that I booked a gig for October, right after 9/11. I had no idea in 2000 that there was going to be this justification for us coming together. And it was really justified, because our hearts were so smashed after what happened on 9/11 that I needed a super band to play this kind of super music, as it was, and that's where the Divine Radiance Band and the experience came into being, because it has to do with us going beyond appearances. So Divine Radiance implies going to the heart of the matter, and not just the heart of the matter because of politics internationally or otherwise, but going to the heart of the matter because we are the universe, and we have to account for it. We are the universe. We're caretakers of the universe. We're not just visitors and travelers, but we're caretakers of the universe.
And it's
okay. So I don't want to talk too long.
No, it's definitely important that people do know that. So thank you for stressing that point, though.
Yeah. So that's, remember, the booking was in 2000, but the date was in 2001, October 2001.
And now, bringing it years later, we have John Medeski, Don Pate, Bob Moses, and Tony Falco with Tisziji Muñoz and Paul Schaefer. And this is happening at the Falcon this Saturday night. The show is at 7 o'clock. Folks can visit live at thefalcon.com and get more information about this incredible event. And once again, John Medeski, Don Pate, Bob Moses, and Tony Falco with Tisziji Muñoz and Paul Schaefer. And if the name sounds familiar and you're not placing the face and the music of Paul Schaefer, he is the conductor of the CBS Late Night Orchestra with David Letterman. So that should be an incredible event, Tisziji, and I would hope to get myself there and to see you Saturday night.
Oh, thank you. There's going to be some pre-release material available. A CD of Divine Radiance, most of the recording, the product that Paul is presenting there. We have a DVD called Paul Schaefer Presents Tisziji Muñoz Divine Radiance Live that he and his people from Letterman put together.
Wow.
Of an interview between us, and then the encore set of Divine Radiance Live at the Village Underground from 2003. So there are going to be some goodies there available, pre-release goodies for the people.
Well, that sounds wonderful. And Tisziji, thank you so much for taking the time this morning to talk to us on the Up and Running Morning Show. Tisziji Muñoz, nothing but great love and great radiance to you and to whatever you do.
Same to you. Thank you very much. Heart to heart, Rick.
Thank you very much, Tisziji. This is the Up and Running Morning Show. I am Rick, and we shall be right back with more musical diversity right after these very important messages.